dudes, it's Robo, and we're back with another episode of Robo-Reviews. And on this episode of Robo-Reviews, we're going to take a look at GHK's take on a classic firearms platform, the GHK AKM gas blowback rifle. Check it out. Yeah. So guys, here you have it, the GHK AKM, or modernized AK-47 Airsoft gas blowback rifle. Now, being that it's the modernized version of the AK-47 or the AKM, it features stamped upper and lower receivers as well as a muzzle brake. Now, the GHK itself comes furnished with a fixed real wood stock as well as real wood handguard features up on the front end. Now, this entire rifle is made of steel except for two places, and I believe that's the butt pad as well as the outer barrel itself. But the gas tube, the lower and upper receivers, everything else is made of steel. So it gives this weapon kind of a nice weight to it. Obviously, gas blowbacks themselves have more weight to them because of the actual functioning bolt. But being constructed almost entirely of steel really does push it towards the most realistic representation of the real-world AK-47 or AK-47M rifle. Now, in terms of the external features themselves, the only thing I found sort of lacking was the pistol grip. It comes with a polymer pistol grip that is, you know, in your hands, sort of leaves you searching for more, but it is what it is. It's fully functional. It's just, you know, compared to the rest of the finishing touches and the steel construction of the weapon, it really sort of offsets the low quality of that pistol grip. But like I said, fully functional. That's just me being picky. You of course can swap that out with any aftermarket AKM or AK-47 pistol grip. Now, speaking of the box, it literally just comes in a plain cardboard box. Not a lot of retail sort of marketing on the outside of that. And to be honest, if you can put a little extra money into the weapon like GHK's done here with the steel features, I would rather you save some money on the marketing on the outside of a box and put it back into the weapon. So what comes in the box is, of course, a single gas AKM magazine. Now, this is fully steel and it does have quite a weight to it. Like most gas magazines do. Realistically, it's sort of pushing towards close to being the real weight of a fully loaded AKM magazine. So again, that really pushes you towards the realism or the immersion aspect of airsofting. You also get this really cheap plastic speed loader, which I had a hell of a time with. These things are basically like 30 cents to make as far as I can figure, and that's why they include them for free, and they perform as such. This one pretty much jams every single time now, so I'm stuck speed loading by hand, so it's not really speed loading, but it is what it is. You get one of these in the box. And of course you get a GHK manual with all the fun safety regulations and warnings and instructions and all that fun stuff, the parts list for your weapon. Once you've seen one of these, you've basically seen them all, but do read through them, just like buying a car. It's important to know inside and out the inner workings of your toys. Now, in terms of your magazines, the GHK actually allows you a choice of either using green gas propane magazines or using CO2 magazines. Now, for the most part, most people think of, you know, Tippmann arms when it comes to CO2 magazines, but again, GHK is a system that allows you to use one or the other. It just depends on the magazine that you're running in the weapon. And quite literally, they almost look exactly the same. The only difference is on the gas, you have a gas fill valve here at towards the back, and then obviously the gas release valve above that. And in terms of the CO2 mag, you just don't have that gas valve back here. You still do have the gas release valve up top. You would actually be putting the CO2 cartridges in the bottom. You remove this base plate and it reveals the reservoir for the CO2 capsule. So just like this. Now, just a quick tip, when you first get these magazines, this base plate's going to be really stuck on there, so you might have to hammer it off and hammer it back on again. Now, as you start to work these in, obviously it gets a little bit easier, and obviously that comes with the warning is that eventually this will get so loose you might want to make sure it doesn't fall off at some point in time. But so just know that this is going to be really tight when you first get it, and it's okay to hammer that off to expose the reservoir. Now, obviously, to load the CO2 cartridge itself, you just unscrew this cap, put the CO2 cartridge in, and then screw as tight as possible until the capsule punctures and is fully sealed without leaks. Then when you're done, you literally just put the cap back on and you're good to go. So what's the difference between gas and CO2? Well, CO2 expands at a greater rate, so you get a little bit more FPS, and in a gas blowback rifle, that means you get a little bit more kick in the bolt system. It's up to you which one you use. CO2 is going to cost you a little bit more just because you're buying those capsules, but it will work better in colder weather, and like I said, give you a more realistic or felt recoil impulse. Now again, does it feel anything, as close to say a 22? Maybe it starts to border on 22, but anything larger than that, no. We are still talking about a gas blowback rifle. With the propane variants, you're going to get, your standard performance in terms of recoil impulse with other gas recoil or gas blowback rifles. So you're still going to feel it. There's going to be a little bit of sight tracking, but again, it is still just propane or green gas that's driving that kick. Now, of course, as being a gas blowback rifle, a lot of the realism is pushed that much closer to its real-world counterpart over an AEG version of the AKM. And a lot of that obviously is the construction, like I said, with real wood and real steel parts, but more so, the actual operation of the weapon is pretty much one-to-one to its real-world firearms counterpart, the AK-47 or the AKM. Now, that also extends to the actual maintenance of the weapon, so the field stripping portion pretty much breaks down like you would expect a real AK-47 would. Now again, some of the internal components are going to be different than in the real world counterpart, but for the most part, the actual design and the familiarity of these parts are going to be pretty darn close. Now, of course, in the AK-47 world, to break this down, you're going to remove the dust cover first, which obviously reveals the buffer post and buffer spring, which you can remove just like in a real AK-47. That leaves you with a buffer block. Now, this is different than a real AK-47. This is to ensure there is a recoil impulse when it comes to an airsoft blowback system. So that is made of plastic in this instance, and that is to transfer more of that recoil force into the weapon and therefore into your shoulder over, say, a metal recoil block there. Now what you have next is the bolt carrier group, which you can just remove like you would on an AK-47. So it's pull to the back, lift up a bit, and remove. The only thing quite different than what you'll see in a real AK-47 is that there's no real bolt here to remove. It's actually the nozzle portion, but the rest of the bolt carrier group looks pretty much like you would expect out of a real AKM. And if you wanted to go one step further, obviously you can remove the gas tube. And that's just done by flicking this switch here and then just pulling it off like you would again in a real AK-47 or AKM. So there you have it, basically a fully field stripped gas blowback weapon. Now again, for guys who run this in the real world, pretty much all of this is going to look very familiar, even down to the insides like the hammer and trigger assembly. The things that are different, obviously there's a hop-up unit here up front, as well as an inner barrel found on most airsoft guns. But other than that, you pretty much have the basic construction of a real AK-47 or AKM. So why does that matter? Well, for your realism guys, realism. Beyond that, for your realism plus training guys, this allows you to at least practice some of the functions or the administrational or maintenance functions that you would on your real rifle. Again, the familiarity of the insides, the inner workings will allow you to train closer to the real world counterpart without having to actually fire real bullets, send real lead downrange. And to put this bad boy back together, simply reverse your order. That's pretty simple. So I'm just going to throw this back together and we'll get on to some shooting tests. So there you have it, all put back together. Again, everything about that process was pretty much one-to-one for a real AKM in the real world. So it's just another note. If you want to use this as a training platform, not only do you get some recoil impulse out of the gas blowback system and the real moving bolt, you also get to practice some of the teardown and maintenance and familiarity of the parts on the inside. Again, not everything is one-to-one on the inside there, so you need to know the differences. if you're going to know the limitations of the training platform. But beyond that, again, there's some things you can learn from this system if you aren't around real AKs all the time. So with all that being said, let's do some shooting, show you what it kind of feels like, the experience of shooting a gas blowback rifle, as well as specifically how the GHK AKM shoots downrange and how it feels in the experience in doing so. So let's check that out. Now for these tests, I'm going to be using the brand new RWA Airsoft Surgeon Bio precision BBs. These are sold in packs of 2,000 just because they're bio. If they go bad, you don't want a lot of them to go bad. These just hit the market, so for any of you that need to use bios at an outdoor field, these are definitely going to be the ones to go for. They have all the same sort of quality and accuracy features that I've found out of the ABS versions. I've literally had 0 failures with these BBs. So yes, while I am sponsored by Red Wolf Airsoft, I truly actually do love these BBs. So again, I'll be using the brand new bios in the tests here just to see how they hold up against a gas blowback rifle. So what are my final thoughts about the AKM by GHK? Well, in terms of a gas blowback rifle, it is a finely crafted piece of machinery. Again, with the steel accents, the steel components, the real wood, the operation, the feel of the gas blowback system, everything is top notch. Again, like I said, the only thing I kind of can strike against it in terms of the outer construction is this polymer pistol grip. Now again, it's just a basic polymer pistol grip. It just feels a little cheap compared to the rest of the rifle itself. But again, I'm being picky. Now in terms of the cost of the GHK AKM, it retails on the Red Wolf site for $450 USD. Anybody who's familiar with the gas blowback system, you know they're a little bit pricier out of the box. Now with that $450, like I said, you get a beautiful constructed weapon as well as a reliable gas blowback system. I would argue the GHK system is probably the best on the market. And that starts to get only teetery because the new TM M4 came out when you get into M4s or ARs. That one is arguably better than the GHK system, but in terms of AKs, you cannot go wrong with a GHK AKM. Beyond that, the magazines themselves, again, anybody familiar with the gas blowback market, you're gonna know gas blowback magazines cost an absolute fortune. Now the gas mags themselves retail for $55 USD on Red Wolf Airsoft, and the CO2 mags retail for $10 more at the $65 USD price point. And again, I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, holy smokes, that's a lot of money compared to what it costs for an AEG mag or even a real firearms magazine. But you got to realize that there's a lot of construction that goes into these. And again, if you're investing in a training platform, the long-term costs of ammunition and things like that are actually very, very small by comparison to firearms. There's just slightly more upfront cost in things like the magazines to get set up. But again, everything balances out to be cheaper in terms of a training platform versus hitting the range all the time. So beyond those comments, again, it's an awesome rifle. I've had a blast using it. I'm not very familiar with the AK platform, to be honest. Most of you probably know I've got buttloads of ARs coming out of every orifice on my body, basically. But Red Wolf sent this to me because I'm interested in learning the manual of arms for AKs and AKMs more, to be more familiar, more efficient at the actions that this weapon presents over, say, an AR. It's my first entry into the gas blowback market, so I'm having an absolute blast using it for, you know, my supplementary training. I'm liking the felt recoil impulse that you get from GBBR. Is it again what I experienced out of firearms? No, not at all, but it does still give you an impulse. It's still something to experience over the, let's call it, blander experience of shooting in AEG, because in an AEG, unless you're talking a PTS ERG, has no recoil impulse whatsoever. So again, if you're looking to train on a platform, to supplement your firearms training, GBBR is the way to go. And if you're looking to supplement some training on AK platforms or even your own AK platform, then again, the GHK AKM GBBR is going to be right up your alley. So check it out on Red Wolf. I've got the link in the description below. And I really do mean that, guys. If you want to use this as a supplemental training platform for your firearms experiences, GBBRs are the way to go. I just wrote an article for a group called Wardoll. I'll link down in the description below for this one as well, where I wrote an article about leveraging Airsoft as a training platform, specifically using GBBR platforms to get some of that recoil impulse. So check that out below. You'll find it super interesting if you're kind of got the mind that's going down the road of how do I supplement my firearms training. Well, GBBRs are a great tool. So check out that article. I think you'll find that one interesting. So there you have it. That pretty much takes care of another Robo-Reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the GHK AKM gas blowback rifle. I've had a blast owning it and using it. In terms of its realism factor, it's been a huge thumbs up from my camp. Now coming down the pipes next, I still have a ton of review material to get through for you guys, including a combat suit by Gianna Tactics, which I'm wearing right now. So more on that later. Coming down the pipes next is my Perroz Designs low profile slick plate carrier review, as well as a ton of other items still in queue waiting to be released to you guys. So be patient with me there. I've got tons of reviews coming. In terms of gameplay, I still have a bit more Nightfall footage for you, and then right into Copperhead 2.5, and then into Op 34 footage. I'm gonna see how quickly I can get this stuff out, but just so you know, your patience will be well rewarded. I've got a ton of gameplay coming to you soon. Now, as always, I wanna take a quick second to thank my four most awesome sponsors, being Enola Gay Tactical Smoke Grenades, Red Wolf Airsoft, Coyote Tactical Solutions, and Virtus Outdoor Group. Now, these four companies provide me support in such a way that allow me to do more airsoft, but more importantly, bring you guys more gameplay, more reviews, and more philosophies to learn from and enjoy. So big thumbs up to these four companies. Please do check out the websites I've got linked in the description below. Thanks. Now, whether you did or you didn't like this video, this guy still wants to know about it. Drop me a line in the comments below. I love the feedback and the conversation. And if you could do me a huge solid, and that is like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. Keeps me happy in this YouTube game. And until next time, guys, keep having fun playing Airsoft, being good community members, defend what you love. Later, guys.